start, let's give it up for DJ Elliott and Katie. Keep it down, and also our great ASL interpreters, making sure that everybody can enjoy these panels. Thank you guys for joining us on this Sunday morning. I'm incredibly honored to be moderating this panel. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is one of the greatest cinematic trilogies in history. Peter Jackson and this cast brought Tolkien's world to life in such a magical way. And you know, let's just get started. First, I want to introduce you. You know him best as Legolas. Let's bring out Orlando Bloom. I promise you he's here. He's here somewhere. There he is. There. Hello, sir. How are you? Next up, you know where it's always. Let's bring out Liv Tyler. You know him as Gimli and Treebeard, John Rhys-Davies. And we got a surprise for you guys. I want to bring out Samwise. Before we start though, can I get all of you guys to get out your cell phones and turn your lights on? That cool? You guys get out all your cell phones, turn your lights on. Is it cool if we do a crowd shot with you guys? Awesome. So you guys can stand over here, facing me. Yes. Let's be very careful. Let's give those to back. Is it possible to kill the house lights? Awesome. We kill
The top headlights off, top headlights off.
Thank you guys. All right. Thank you again for joining us on this Sunday morning, and thank you guys for joining us. Good morning.
Look, Mr. Frodo, it's the elves.
You can never trust an elf to give you a working one. That's my problem.
Just had to give him a hug to warm him up, otherwise he's going to be mean to me.
Let's take everyone back on a journey to Middle Earth. We're going to start with you, Orlando, because Peter Jackson, you said Peter Jackson gave you your first big break as Legolas. What do you remember the most about stepping into that role, into those boots for the very first time?
What do I remember most? A feeling of excitement. I mean, I was 20, right? So like, I think I turned 21 in New Zealand. So a sense of, you know, this remarkable journey that we were all going to go on. Obviously, having read the books and sort of having an understanding of what this could possibly be, but not really knowing anything because it was my first movie experience. I was like just an open vessel, if you like, ready to kind of go on a journey in it. So that sort of anticipation, that excitement, that sense of possibility, that feeling of like your whole life is beginning and you're beginning this remarkable journey. I mean, that's, if you could bottle that feeling and give it to you all, I would, because it's truly something that maybe you've all had in your own way as well. But like, it's like maybe you could relate it to about to go on, it's the night before Christmas, or, you know, and you're about to go on a holiday of a lifetime, or it's something like similar to that, but we couldn't have known. I think none of us could have known what we were really stepping into. I don't think, I don't think any of us knew what quite we were stepping into.
Liv, Arwen is such a unique blend of strength, grace, and quiet power. What drew you to the character when you first read the script?
Well, just the whole experience again. We were all so excited and so terrified just to be a part of the whole world. It was more just getting to enter into the vastness of the material. I felt so much responsibility, and I still do. I get nervous when I even have to talk about it because there's just so much that we had to learn. And Arwen is a beautiful character, and it was a little bit mysterious because there's not as much of her. So we were sort of figuring out how to interpret her into the films and create her story, which took a few different turns over the years. And I guess I'm still sort of in awe and inspired by her today. As we were so young, it was hard to fully understand everything that was happening to us. So even now I reflect upon it, and someone will say something to me and I'll go, oh yeah, wow. It's still inspiring to me, so incredible character.
What I found was interesting is the way that you said that you felt a sense of terror, and yet there was none evident. I mean, that wonderful, fierce character that she plays, so lyrical, so beautiful, so assured in a way. You would never imagine that it was a young actress who was
scared to ride a horse. Very scared to ride a horse.
No, but we didn't see it. Did you see it?
No, but to be fair, it wasn't like they were helping her out in the field, whatever. They put this big giant horse inside of a small building with equipment all around it. They're like, sit there, you'll be fine. So if you weren't scared, it's like you're not paying attention.
What was that great blooper reel?
I had so many different versions of horse riding. I actually was never on the horse. Like when you see me on the whole scene of her with the ring wraiths or that whole situation, I'm never actually the person riding. It was the stunt person. But I had a million different versions over the course of the full 3 years or year and a half, 2.5, 3.5 years, where one time I was on the back of a golf cart, dead horse skin, and I had to go like this, with one of the grips kicking in, and the technology sort of changed over time. Sometimes there was a mechanical Frodo, sometimes there was Kieran, who was 3'6". It was very interesting, that whole thing.
We all had that.
Yes.
We all had stunt doubles. We all had what they referred to, Kieran and BK and Fawn. They were referred to as scale doubles. We all had insert things. We had photo double. Yeah, I remember, the first thing I remember about Orlando relative to the character was his eyes and his posture. And the first thing I remember about John, aside from asps, they're dangerous, you go first. Take you to the wrong place, but that aside, I remember the first day in Lothlorien up on the trees, and they hadn't sorted out your costume properly, so they had this industrial-sized air conditioner up your skirt kind of a thing. And just thinking, wow, if he survives, that'll be a miracle. But and when Liv first got there, we all had dinner at the White Fish, I think it was called.
The spotted fish.
Something White House. The White House.
The White House.
Yes, the other one. So I remember it had just been the boys for months. Lots of locker room talk for months, and then Liv was coming. And we were going to go to dinner, and the boys were like, well, I'll sit next to her. No, I'll sit next to her. That's fine, I'll sit next to her. I'll be the one. And they're just play cool, Hi, Liv, how are you?
John, correct me if I'm wrong, but you originally auditioned for Denethor, not Gimli. What drew to that character, and how did you feel when the team suggested you should do Gimli instead?
Who the hell would want to go to New Zealand to do a film that could not be filmed? To have a big prosthetic makeup on, be stuck there for 5 years. for a film that would never be released. That was my feeling.
You as Denethor would have killed the project?
No. Denethor would have given me 6 weeks in New Zealand, see the place, come back and continue with life. What I did not understand was the extent to which Peter Jackson had actually built an entire industry to service his vision. And I was so convinced that this was nonsense. He'd done some small films that were very funny. Anyone can direct a 6-hander, given 6 or 8 weeks to do it. Anyone can do that. But when you've got, 21 principal characters, casts of thousands, hundreds of extras. You know, whenever we rolled into a town, there were at least 200 or 300 people that came with horses and canoes. And canoes.
Do you know why he's saying it?
Helicopter.
In the training period, 6 weeks beforehand, they had us doing all manner of things that we ultimately didn't need in the movie. But these two had to share a canoe, and there's just this great footage of John going,
And you know that the little pointy ears blame the dwarf.
It's really a question of balance.
It's no question. Like you lean too far to the right and we all got wet.
We went to lunch and dried out, and afterwards the pairing was changed. And the elf was in a canoe with a hobbit. And guess what happened?
The Hobbit sunk the boat. I don't know.
Sean, when I woke up this morning, I did not know you were going to be on this panel, and I was manifesting it so hard. No idea. I manifested it well enough to actually write questions out for you just in case. So, Samwise is often called the heart of the Lord of the Rings.
I can confirm that he is one of them.
Yes? What does it mean to you to play such a loyal and humble hero?
Well, looking at the elves, we haven't really done, I think I might have done 1 or 2 of these panels, but this is the first one we've ever done together. And I just remember that you were an elf. You were an elf. Liv was an elf to us, this mystical creature who came in. And there's that line, I just joked about it at the beginning, but I get to see elves? Like really, I get to see the elves. They're otherworldly, and that's what Liv was. And there's a moment I think it's in Lothlorien, I can't remember, but where they're in this elf paradise. They've been healing and stuff. And Sam goes to Frodo and he says, "Mr. Frodo, it's about time we get home now." And Frodo says, "Well, we're here, and you get to see the elves." He says, "It was great to see the elves, but really we ought to get back home now." And that idea of home, of something that's worth protecting, something that's safe and natural and good, that I felt that in my bones.
I love that. I love that.
You are my favorite character.
He's so awesome.
And in the dream.
How glad are all of you that Sean Astin is on this stage, guys?
So people say that Sam is Sam's the true hero, and that's not true. What Tolkien said in his letters was that Sam is the chief hero, but Frodo sacrifices his immortal soul. Tolkien's a big Catholic. Frodo's the Christ figure, and it's like, oh, Frodo wouldn't have gone far without Sam. Well, he wouldn't have gone far without any of them. So it really, there's enough hero to spread around,
Oh, Sean, I love you, man. Liv, one of the most iconic lines in the series, and one of my lines in cinematic history is, "I would rather share one lifetime with you than face all of the ages
Of this world alone.
What does that line mean to you all these years later?
Oh my goodness. It's so funny because I've been writing it a lot this week. It's so interesting reflecting back. Oh, it's such a beautiful idea of love.
Can you say the line for us right now?
In English accent or living? That would be hard. Rather. I would rather face all the ages of, I would rather face all the ages of this world alone than share one life. No.
I would rather share one lifetime.
I would rather share one lifetime with you than face all the ages of this world alone. Yes. I need another coffee. I feel that way about my children.
Love that answer.
For sure. That changes how I feel about love and life, but I think it's so beautiful that she feels that way about Aragorn.
John, Orlando, the friendship between Gimli and Legolas is a fan favorite. Can you talk about how you guys built your chemistry on and off screen? And I guess it started with canoeing.
Me go. So I think, like, obviously, as a young actor, I'd seen John, Indiana Jones, all of that. It was sort of like, I was a little bit awestruck to begin with. But I think that and I was learning a lot. I just was learning so much all the time about all of it, about how to perform, everything really, because I come from drama school training, but I really didn't know what I was doing when it came to. I had a whole set of. I created a world, an inner world, and a backstory for the character. Obviously, I'd done all the stuff that you could possibly think of to prepare for the role, because as everyone felt the pressure. But when it came to this relationship, it was all sort of in the books, wasn't it? It was so beautifully articulated in the way that Tolkien wrote it. And I think John really leaned into being the responsibility of how to kind of create that dynamic. And I was just sort of like, we had this one scene up a mountain, and I really wanted to pull my knife on him at one point. And he just shut me down so hardcore. He was like, well, if you did this, I would do this. And I remembered it was kind of one of my first lessons in the back and forth of how you deal with this dynamic, and which was really important. And but I think, John, what do you think? You had
You turned up. You were a young lad straight from drama school. With that wonderful
ideas,
assurance that young actors have, and that wonderful certainty, and it was a very strange dynamic, because, of course, the elf is a lot older than the dwarf, but in real life, the dwarf was a lot older than but it was very interesting to watch. The one thing that you didn't have right at the beginning was that sense of the architecture of the whole piece yet. And that's why if you pulled your knife at that point, it wouldn't work.
and to be fair, we were shooting 3 movies, sometimes a scene from the 3rd movie in the morning and a scene from the 1st movie at the end of the day. Pete was very strategic about how he shot the movie so that he knew how to get from different locations what he wanted. That's part of his genius.
My sense of the architecture was looking at what clothes I was wearing. It's dirty, it must be in the 3rd movie.
Do you remember there was a time where Peter had monitors, 20 different monitors, and I feel like they were very old little TVs now, and that big old armchair, and he would be sitting with all these monitors, and we were all on different sets, and he was conducting this huge orchestra, and it was very tricky to know where we were at any time.
That's right.
The thing about the elves, and the relationship between the dwarf and the elf that I could see, is that in a production setting, physicality is really important. And a bow is a bit awkward.
Yeah.
And the axe and the clothes. So just, to have a thing, but sorry, that thing is, all right, this thing, you know, and you just have to deal with human, physical, practical stuff.
But John also had this insane prosthetic, which was just like too much. I mean, it was a lot. It would be a lot for anyone, but like, it was...
Consumed 8 hours of the day, really.
Yeah, and also, so this was the beginning of all this stuff as well, in a way. I don't think like prosthetics like this hadn't really been utilized in this
Not
way.
on an industrial scale.
Not, and it was, and he had this, so he had all of this on his face, and so this is a lot of chemicals on the skin, and he had a really intense reaction to some of this. So, you know, it was a lot for you. I think it lent into some of the grumpiness of the character.
What he's saying is there was one grumpy old bastard on the set, and he had to work with him.
But we mustn't forget Brett, right? Because Brett was your double, and you know he was a Kiwi. He's an amazing guy now. Actually, I just spoke to somebody recently. Yeah, I had a recent communication with him because he's doing amazing stuff for the environment. But Brett was often, because of the scale difference, right? Brett was the perfect height. He was maybe 3 foot, 4 foot,
No,
about
a little taller than
4 5.
I would think he was 5 feet. You're very tall, so everyone looks short.
Tall for the scale, right? He was the right scale, but he did a lot of the doubling on the back of the horse and stuff, and then you know it was.
No, we all have that, but Brett, I think there was so much time in the makeup with you that we ended up spending a lot of time with Brett.
Yeah,
because Brett was the right height for their eye line.
That's right.
Whereas when I got in there, since I was the tallest person, I remember that first day when we got the armor, when we got the helmet on and the armor on, and we were going to do it on our knees, you see. So right, Gimli is now about to use the axe.
So I didn't need that. For hobbit size, dwarves are taller than hobbits.
And there the helmet had come off and got all the makeup. the nose and everything, and it was back into makeup for another 5 hours.
Yes.
Oh, dear Lord.
I think this is the...
But he would come on set, actually, and it was remarkable because we do all this stuff with Brett, and then John would come in for the close-ups and just like nail it. It was just behind all of this makeup, which again we'd never really seen as much prosthetics. So it was like almost like, how could he could not be anybody else other than John Rhys-Davies under that costume. Is what I'm saying. That makeup. He just.
I remember in the Balance 2. The sequence where we fight the cave troll, which is really the first time that I remember all of us, all the choreography, all of the doubles, all of everything, it came together as a real team effort. And it's led with you coming in so excited, and then seeing that the emotionality of the crushing. You know, your family's gone, and God, that was, and then the fight, just so good. It's a good movie. If you haven't had a chance,
we had a lot of fun.
John, if Legolas and Gimli had a buddy comedy spin-off, what would it be called? if Legolas and Gimli had a buddy comedy spin-off, what would it be called?
Laurel and Hardy.
Well, knowing the both of them and how they related to each other, probably if it was a sitcom, One Day at a Time.
Sean, how good are you at cooking potatoes now? Are you a boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew? Are you good at making potatoes? And how do you like potatoes?
Whatever your preference is, I'll take care of it.
Take you up on
potatoes, boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew with a nice piece of fried fish. I think Rosie has taught me well, probably. Yeah.
For all of you, What was your favorite moment from the trilogy, from your respective characters? Sarcastic.
Tilt.
Character moment or human moment?
If you want.
You and that sword. That one.
If you want him.
Oh, stopping my heart. It was glorious.
You know what my favorite scene was Vigo and I don't know if it was the last thing we ever shot, or if it's in the film, I haven't seen it in so long, but we just got to go run around and frolic in the woods together, and it was all shot in slow motion, and Vigo put a daisy in between his feet, and we were laughing, and it was really interesting, because it was the first time I ever got to look at him as Liv and like fall in love with him in a way. There was no pressure, there was no elvish, there was
gnarly feet, yeah, by the way. Be walking around New Zealand in the whole set, the whole time barefoot.
He was
Gnarliest
there.
looking feet he's ever. That's just like, we'd be in a bar and there'd be glass on the floor and Vigo's walking, like broken glass, just walking barefoot through.
And I feel like he was mad at me all the time because I didn't want to go riding horses with him all the time. All he wanted to do was go on all free time to ride the horse. His sword was in the back of the car, no shoes, and yeah, so I always thought he was a bit naughty, but that was it.
Legend.
It was just like a sweet moment that he had later, and it was so beautiful.
Must be like, I think it must be like You Have My Bow. That was, for me as a young actor, like that whole sequence was just like, I remember sitting there, coming out of drama school with all of these legends and thinking, what am I doing here? How did this happen? This is unbelievable. And, you know, how do I not lose my SHIT? You know what I mean? And, like, keep it together. And, but I think that moment.
Do you guys have one?
Well, there's two. One, well, by the way, if you ask me this in 10 minutes, you're gonna get a different answer. So, one was in the Stairs of Cirith Ungol when Frodo's been taken away by Bagrat and whatever Shag, whatever they are, those guys, the orcs, and I get to be Errol Flynn, charging up the stairs, swashbuckling, you know, that's for my old gaffer, and get those and when I get up there, you know, I hit people over the head with the pans, and that's great, but I got to run that guy through with Sting. And then come up behind his head, take that, you, whatever. Like, that was awesome. But from a performer's perspective, the moment where that was an achievement. It was what's the word? It was just like a breakthrough. One of the most profound breakthroughs I've ever had. We woke up in the morning in WHA. F-A, I can't remember how you spell it, but it's pronounced Whakapapa. and we were staying in this haunted castle place just at the foot of Mount Ruapehu where we were filming Mount Doom. And we got in the van, as you do every morning, and most of the morning for Sam, it was going to be walking across the Shire and walking across Mount Doom and more walking, and Sam didn't get to talk that much, and I was like, oh, it's a walking day. And we get in, they hand us the script, and there's this speech, which I read and I knew, but I hadn't, I don't know, it was, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my God, these are the greatest words ever written. And I'm with Elijah, and so I start doing it with him in the van, back and forth, and it's so good, I wanted to do it again, and do it again, and do it again, you know, in the van, and again, and again, and again. And finally Elijah's like, I think you got it, dude. But it didn't matter, you know, if you're in a play, you get to do, you know, every night for a year or something like that. And we were going to get to do this once. And it was too good to only do once. So then we're getting the makeup thing, and I'm doing it again. And Elijah finally realized, like, okay, so he just did it. And then the sun was setting, and do you remember the Shire, Mr. Frodo? It'll be springtime soon, and the birds will be nesting in the hazel thickets, and there'll be something with the pig in the first of the strawberries and cream, or something like that. And then I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. That scene. Doing that scene with Frodo cradled in my arms, it was like it was almost like the volcano, the active volcano where you could smell the sulfur and it would like rumble every now and then. It was like an antenna to the universe. And we were right there riding this moment. And Peter Jackson, who, you know, could be very direct and specific about what he wanted, and you got the sense that, you know, the bosses laid a thing, you got to do it. This moment, he came around and the tears were streaming down his face, and he just went like that. And you know, and I'm like, can we do it again? Can we do it again?
For all of you, Orlando, you recently said you returned to the franchise that Peter Jackson called. What would it take to get each one of you back on board if the opportunity presented itself?
I mean, I would just do anything to go. I write to Fran and Philip and Peter all the time, and I'm like, hey, I really want to come visit. I really want to bring my kids. Is there any chance we're going to do another one, or Arwen would come back? But I would just, it was such a gift to our lives. It's so hard to sum up in words, but it was such a profound gift, and I would do anything to be able to see it again, feel it again. But we live it in our hearts and our minds, you know?
Absolutely.
Do I have to put on the feet again?
Technology's come a long way, Sean, so maybe not.
I know.
You really, a little sock now.
Is it really?
Probably.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't.
Anything as long as I don't have to put that full prosthetic on again. But can I just flash back to the question you asked before? Last week, a great friend of mine died, Richard Chamberlain, who was a magnificent actor. And he taught me more about the professionalism of being on a set than any other person has ever done. And he was talking about doing Dr. Kildare, and he's a young actor working with Raymond Burr and all these old established actors. You know, they rehearse Monday, Tuesday, they shoot it on Wednesday, they finish off anything on Thursday because they want Friday off to go and play golf. So they're professionals, they've been doing this. This young actor comes along, he's straight out of college, and he's good looking, and he's receiving 26,000 fan letters a week. And 22 of them are proposals of marriage. So he's under some pressure. And he always preps properly because he doesn't want to keep the big guys waiting. And he got given a script, and he went home and he learned it. And it was about a new drug that stimulated the heart. The words were used on a constant basis throughout the thing. So he learned the way to say the words. And he came in, and somebody came up to him and said, "Oh, you're saying it the wrong way. It's this." And they gave him every word he came to. You know, he would go, and he'd screw up. And he screwed up every time he said it. And they went into Friday, and then they went in on the Monday as well. I only mention this because there was a single moment on the set where I had to say something like, and they all knew how to say it long before I said it. Ish kakwi I do rug nul. I still wake up remembering you lot were going, Anyway, yes.
The idea of doing Sam again, when we did it the first time, I had no idea what the relationship of the literature was to that character, or to the, like I just did. So to me, it was all about what we were doing and trying to understand the ideas and just connecting on an emotional level. Now, after 25 years of having people come and talk about what it meant to you and how it helped them in their life, and they got past a hard time, and it brought their family together, and it's, and all of the millions of things that get said, I wonder what that would be like to try and go into a performance where you're supposed to be centered and present and focused on what you're doing. With that kind of, I don't know if it would be, I don't know what that would be like, yeah.
I always think, like, if Pete says jump, I say how high. you know, in a way. And it's funny because I think the elves kind of go through so much of this world so many times because they're ageless and stuff. So hence I went back for that little snort was funny, wasn't it? So hence I go, you know, I'm in The Hobbit, which I was sort of like, it was kind of really, it was really interesting revisiting the world in The Hobbit, having been, it was so different from Rings, you know, as an experience, because you could never repeat Rings. It was beautiful, it was a beautiful time and stuff. But this idea of kind of going back is like, it's like, absolutely, who wouldn't want to go back to that place? But of course, the magic of that moment was not something that could ever really be repeated. The time, the age, the place that we were at, the place that the universe, the world, the planet was at, all of it is like, it's impossible to recreate. But I think the idea of playing these characters, like being in the headspace of Legolas is like awesome. You know what I mean? It's like my ADD is gone. It's like, I am focused. And that's something that like I would always embrace, because it's this crazy meditative state of just like all knowing and all seeing and all conquering in some way, which is such a cool feeling.
It was pretty obvious to me right after the film's watching the fan reaction, and I would say in convention settings, they'll do a remake. And people will go, no, they could never do a remake. And I think one of the things that I learned from Peter and from the experience was that, and from my father, who was Gomez in the original Addams Family, and just had his 95th birthday, which is pretty great. So, but I'll tell him he said so. But that creativity is constant, and you can keep imagining things, and you can do, new and different iterations, and nothing can ever take away from the poetry and purity of the thing that was achieved in people's life and time and everything. But like, it's okay. There are other Samwises. It's okay. Like I root for them. I feel like it's against the spirit of Tolkien to try and own something. His whole point about allegory, about metaphor, was that it's not, Sauron is not Hitler. Sauron is not Hitler. And you're like, but you were writing, you did the First World War, and your son was in the Second World War, and the orcs look like the Nazis, and like, I don't understand. But he wanted to make sure that that work spoke to people at any time. And right now, the planet is in a state of intense flux. So that speech that Sam gives at the end of the Two Towers couldn't be more relevant to this moment.
Honestly, Sean, I don't think there's a better way to end this panel than that, exactly. Thank you all for joining us this morning. This has been